man, it is balls hot.
Yeah, I still can't believe you worked at a 90-degree freaking Starbucks today. I would have gone insane, man. Especially since yours is really bad about the windows. Like, that thing is just like 80% glass.
Yeah. We do a pretty good job blocking out the light, but it's just the other things. It's like the place will get full of people, and then you got 2 convection ovens, 2 espresso machines.
Yep.
And
just
3 refrigerators,
all the coffee being made, just
everything there.
It's a coffee shop.
Pretty much everything there puts off a lot of heat.
Ugh.
So it's like the moment you turn the AC off in that building, it goes from being 72 degrees,
like a calm 70.
Yeah, well, if we can get it down to 70, that would be golden, but we can't.
Okay, so like
when the place is full of people and the AC is running, it'll hover around 72, 75.
So like mid to low 70s.
And then the moment you turn that AC off, it will go from 75 to 90 in the span of like 45 minutes. Like, it just turns into a humid, sweaty coffee thing.
That sounds absolutely awful.
Coming soon to Starbucks near you, a new roast. People.
I'd actually drink that just on principle of figuring out what in God's name they made it taste like.
Soylent green coffee.
I mean, I say that having been at my breakfast today because I got up at friggin' 5:45 because my job is occasionally the worst. I bought Soylent again.
Oh yeah,
and I bought the breakfast kind, which has coffee in it, and it's actually pretty good. They've gotten the normal Soylent kind of.
I hear that they've worked out a lot of the kinks.
Normal Soylent tastes like ass. It tastes.
I hear it tastes like vanilla ass.
Normal Soylent, back when I first had it, when they first got the 2.0 blend, tasted like the milk after you finish eating a bowl of Cheerios.
Yes.
Imagine that, except an entire like meal drink.
Yeah. So it's like that but thick.
It's like an oatmeal-y Cheerio milk, or at least it used to be. And then they made a coffee blend. I was super skeptical about it because the first time I ordered it, I'm like, this stuff was crap. Like, it wasn't bad. It was just like, it was a lot. And then they made a coffee blend, and it's essentially, what if we took that, except poured an entire 12-ounce black coffee into this? And I had it, and I'm like, oh, so it's just slightly denser coffee with an entire meal in? Sold. Yeah. So hard sold. It's actually really good, and I bought their vanilla, like, cafe blend now, which is, what if we put vanilla flavoring on top of a coffee, on top of an entire meal, and it's glorious.
Well, that's like Brent Black on Trends Like These.
I don't know that.
He's Brentofloss.
Oh, yeah, Brentofloss.
He was talking about, they do this thing at the beginning of their show where they talk about what they're drinking. It started off with like whiskey and stuff like that. But
yeah.
Brent talks about how he doesn't usually actually keep alcohol in his home because he'll buy it and then it disappears.
Fair.
So what he drinks on a regular basis, he brews his own cold brew. Mm-hmm. And then what he does is he does half cold brew and the other half is vanilla flavored muscle milk. And he claims it's like the most delicious freaking thing ever. I mean, and that sounds similar to what you're saying.
I would feel bad purchasing muscle milk personally.
I mean, they sell it at QFC in little containers.
I know, but
you could use it like creamer.
I've seen enough. Like, I've had enough experiences in college with dudes who are just like, oh, I'm so yoked, man. Like, the kind of dudes who would wear like a bro tank where you're like, fuck, I'm A, ashamed of my physiology right now, and B, I'm seeing way too much of this human being for like 8 a.m. in September. Like, screw you, man.
All right, here's an idea for a t-shirt. Cadbury cream egg bitten through, just kind of like the most grotesque bite with it kind of like oozing out of it, and just below it says, so yoked.
Oh my god. Oh, I hate you sometimes.
Put that on Redbubble.
Oh, why do I do a podcast with you?
Because I said let's do it was your idea.
It was my idea.
It's your fault.
No, this is entirely my fault. I walk into these puns, ladies and gentlemen.
So before we begin the episode, full disclosure, it might get a little weird in here because I'm feeling a little delirious.
It's 90 fucking degrees in Washington, people. This is not okay.
This is not okay.
This is so unacceptably fucking hot.
Like, I know Arizona is hotter. I know LA is hotter. I know all these other places are hotter. But you know what? I'm just gonna whine about it a bit. Okay, I'm a big man baby.
Well, but here's the thing:
it is hot. It is muggy, and the sky is dimmed from a fire that happened in Canada.
Oh yeah, Canada's smoke is just wafting its way down here and ruining our lungs.
So even though it should be these bright sunny days, it's not. It's like summertime in Silent Hill.
So a coworker, I was coming back from a field trip. I work in a childcare organization, and we were coming back on a field trip. And a coworker and I, when we were on the bus back, realized when we were coming across the I-90 bridge, we had gone there on I-90 and it was fine. And on the way back, I'm like, "Hey, I can't see to 520." And she was like, "Oh shit, what the hell is that?" And one of our other coworkers pulls something up on her phone and is like, "Oh my God, they're giant Canadian wildfires right now, and we're just getting it." That was literally a week ago.
Yeah.
That was last Wednesday, and I figured that out while talking with her again today. I'm like, crap, was that a week ago? And we both came to the realization that it has just been like this.
Yes.
For a week now. It is awful outside.
We need rain so badly.
Which apparently is coming Sunday.
Woohoo.
I mean, yeah, you get 3 more days of just this. But I will say this, and this is one of my favorite lines from my training back so I have a degree in psychology for reference for audience members who don't know us, and let's be serious, there are none. I have a degree in psychology, and so back when I was doing training for that, there was, in reference to your Arizona thing, I remember hearing that it doesn't matter that something is not as bad as what's happening to another person out there, because at that point, like, I can't imagine what Arizona heat is like, so I can't feel more sorry for them to be like, "Oh wow, it sucks outside, but you know what's probably worse? 10 degrees more than this," because my brain can't quantify 10 degrees hotter. Like, I can't actually do that. It's like telling someone who got stabbed, like, at least didn't get shot. Like, I don't know what a bullet feels like. Like, how am I supposed to quantify that? Like, I can't figure out what that pain's supposed to be.
Doctor, I need your help. I got stabbed. Well, you know, there are people starving in other countries.
Like, that's great, doctor. Can you fix my goddamn knife wound? Like,
no, I know. I try to tell people this all the time, that they can't feel bad for feeling bad because other people have it worse than them.
No, you can't try and put either your emotional or physical pain in the context of someone else, because you don't know what that means.
You're allowed to live your life. You're allowed to feel what you feel.
Welcome to Agree to Disagree, where we believe you can feel what you feel. It's hot and we're delirious.
All right, you want to start this thing?
Let's start a show.
All right. 3,
2,
1. Hi, I'm John.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
And this is Agree to Disagree. And
welcome back to the long belated Incredible Hulk Part 2, everybody.
Yes, I watched the Hulk. I watched the Incredible Hulk, 2008's The Incredible Hulk, a week ago. And
I watched it 20 minutes ago.
Nice. It's fresh in his mind, folks.
I will say, as you probably heard in the stinger, this is mostly my fault due to the fact that I've just been so busy recently. I've just taken care of work and other stuff, and so I've been kind of lacking the time to be able to record, so I kind of left watching the movie off until it inevitably spiraled into its own problem. But here we are, we're recording a show, and John...
I'm flipping through my notes. I can't find where I wrote anything down. I know I did.
I mean, should we start from the top?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think?
Oh, well...
Let's start with the basic point.
Basic point. I like this film. I feel like it does a decent job telling you everything you need to know about the Hulk in the opening credits. And then it just starts you off like, this is where we're at. He's in Rio de Janeiro, and he is trying to... Bruce Banner is trying to hide. And from that point until... I would say, and I liked everything about the film up until he gets back into the U.S. Like, all that down in Rio de Janeiro, fantastic. once he gets to the US, once Liv Tyler enters the screen, I feel like it's not as good.
Fair enough. I suppose that's the basic point right there.
The final showdown at the end of the movie, I actually really liked. There are some things that they'll probably never go back to. Like there's some like setup for future films that happens in the movie that will never
multiple times. They'll never be covered.
It will never be covered again because even though this is technically an MCU movie, it is sort of a forgotten MCU movie because it was meant to set up things that were going to happen later in the first wave that they never follow through on.
Yeah,
because I feel like they decided to make it more Iron Man centric and less Avenger centric early on. You know?
No, I agree.
How about you? What do you think?
I actually really enjoyed it. I would say outside of a few elements, I'm going to disagree with you. I would actually say it's probably definitely in my top 10, possibly in my top 5 of the MCU movies. I was really astonished by how much I liked it.
Yeah.
There are definitely some elements that do get very, very frustrating. I mean, Liv Tyler can't act, but
that's one of the things that just drags the whole movie down for me. It's like at the time, Liv Tyler was still kind of like your go-to romantic interest in Hollywood, and she can't act. She plays Liv Tyler in every movie she's in. Which is fine when Liv Tyler is appropriate to have as the main female lead in a movie. I will say the best moment she does have in this movie is right at the very beginning of her, where she sees Bruce Banner and chases after him and runs out into the alleyway. Something actually that's kind of almost like mirrored in Deadpool.
Yeah. Come to think of it, yeah.
But she runs out into the alleyway and she's like, "Where did he go?" And then she runs back in and talks to the pizzeria guy.
Which, I mean,
I think his name's Joe or something.
That's fine. I don't know his necessity as a character, but like whatever.
And it's one of those things where like the movie spends this time sort of like setting up, don't tell this person I'm here, and then immediately it becomes null and void. Like there's no real time spent on they should have had some more moments where she thought she saw him.
Yeah.
Off in the distance because he was kind of lingering on the campus. There was a perfect moment where she could have thought she saw him.
Yeah, I would also say her other best moment is still probably stopping the tank. There's a scene later on, not later on. Well, actually, it's still early game at that point, where because we as an audience, I mean, I knew, but I don't know how many people in the audience knew that Liv Tyler was actually the main general's daughter, and she stops because at that point they'd just been referencing it as the general, and stops a tank. Shouts at it, and then shouts "Dad," and then he realizes
I know you're in there, Dad.
That was actually kind of great, and despite despite the delivery of the line, it was actually quite good. I like that.
The only problem I have with that setup is she runs in front of the troop transport, the mobile command center, whatever that the general's in.
Yeah, like it was at an APC.
Some I don't know military terms.
Armored personnel carrier,
something like that.
Okay.
But she stops that. He gets out. General Roth gets out, and they're watching as things escalate. At this point, military police or people standing by should have been partially detaining her and holding her off to the side. But no, she's just free to roam. And then she runs past them into the field of combat.
Yep.
And
I will say she gets a good elbow in on one of those guys.
Yeah.
That sounded painful.
It's like, okay, all right. And there's this great sort of thing that they set up where it's like she hasn't talked to her dad in years.
Yep. Which, I mean, would make sense if he was involved in the potential, what you would imagine the death of your husband at the time.
Right. Or boyfriend, whatever.
Yeah, there was implied. Yeah.
And then like there's this whole dialogue between the two of them where it's like, you're not my dad. I'll never call you dad anymore. That kind of thing.
Which happens later on, which is fine.
And like there's a nice payoff where it's like you find out that the reason they found out where Bruce Banner was because of her current boyfriend. But it turns out he's not a bad guy.
Yeah, and
he
saw that the Hulk at Banner as the Hulk protected her while her own father called down a gunship on them, and it's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe the giant hulking green monster has a good point here. Maybe you are an asshole.
Yeah, hopefully he figures some things out.
Yeah.
But okay, so
I liked it though. In summary, I actually very much enjoyed the movie.
I liked it. I will put it. It's below Iron Man for me with the.
Oh yeah.
But it's above the first Thor.
By far.
Because the first Thor is one of the weakest, I would say, of the first wave.
I'm actually shocked that Thor was the one that somehow made it through after. I think it's the visuals. I think the main reason that the first Thor actually made it through was because of how bright the visuals were. It kind of reminds me of the first Guardians, actually, in that way. Or just Guardians, period, where it's like they were able to use the Asgardian nature to kind of do the Marvel Galactic sort of bullshit. And usually the Marvel Galactic stuff is super bright and really awesome to look at. And those visuals drive a lot of like why that ends up looking very cool and working well for audiences. And a lot of this movie is just a lot like the main shades are gunmetal, green, red, and then a lot of black. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, like skin tones and stuff like that. But like overall, like it's a very dull movie from its color palette, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the visuals from Thor were the only thing that may have put it over the top, because story-wise, this movie's way stronger.
Well, now, if I had to guess, one of the reasons they didn't do an immediate follow-up to the Hulk like they did with Thor would be because of the contention between Edward Norton and the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole.
Hemsworth was a lot more agreeable to Avengers-related stuff. And that probably made life a lot easier with him and turning him into a more main character, but whatever.
I may have a bias just because us long-haired, bearded, blonde guys need to stick together.
I mean, apparently.
But
you're all descended from Vikings.
He's
right?
one of my favorite.
Yeah. So what you got in the notes here?
So first of all, I made a note of time to Tony Stark in the movie. You get mention of Stark Industries
at the very beginning.
2 minutes and 30 seconds in, that's the first time you see, not outside of the introduction to the movie.
Oh, we're not talking about the blueprint flashback.
If we're talking about opening credits, then it's
I think it's like 30
seconds.
Like 30 seconds,
yeah. But 2 minutes and 30 seconds into the movie as a whole.
All it took to bring up Stark.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I also mentioned that in an effort to seclude himself and learn to control his anger, Bruce Banner moves to one of the most heavily populated towns in South America.
Yeah, that was really goddamn stupid on his part.
I mean, visually, beautiful.
Oh, no, it looks... was it Buenos Aires, right? Or am I thinking of... was it Rio?
Rio de Janeiro.
Right, Buenos Aires is Argentina. Damn it. But he moved to Rio, right? Or it was like something nearby Rio.
Yeah, and so he is in a city where it's like, to his credit, it's a city where you can easily disappear.
Yeah.
So that he has that going for it. It's not normally that'd be a great idea, but in this case, it's a bad idea because he's a person that turns into a giant green rage monster.
I will also say, and this is something that Ross brings up like very quickly in the movie, is that he's been border jumping a lot. He's never really stayed in one place, which is actually why, looking back, now that I think about it, it makes sense from a visual aspect that he's in a very barren apartment, has an English to Portuguese dictionary that he looks like he just kind of found, and then a random dog who walked into his apartment that he's just keeping. Yeah. And so it actually kind of fits visually in that way to be like, right, okay. Looking back, that actually makes a whole lot more sense than just a random scene to be like, he's been here for days. Like, no, he's been here for a while. But he's been here for only a little bit, but he's been jumping from place to place.
Yeah, he's been, you get the impression he's been there for several months.
Yeah.
Because he's got a job at a soda factory. The foreman or owner of the soda company, he mentions that, he's working below his pay grade, and he wants to make him on salary kind of guy.
And then I do love how the incident that starts it all is a freak accident that ends up slicing his finger.
Yep.
Which is, if we're doing things that actually are supposed to mirror the original Hulk without having to do the origin story again, absolutely perfect setup of just random slice of blood that he freaks out about. and then just runs downstairs to a very confused owner, wipes the blood, thinks he's fine, and then he ends up poisoning Stan Lee.
Yep. By the way, one of my personal favorite Stan Lee cameos.
I actually really liked that one.
With the exception being, I think now my favorite Stan Lee cameo might be in Guardians 2.
Yeah. Him talking to the Watchers is pretty phenomenal.
Him just being a spaceman talking to the Watchers, basically, in a way, threading how all of his cameos mix together
Makes
to be
sense.
like one glorious whole.
It's ridiculous. I love it.
And speaking of the factory, the first time we see the Hulk in this movie, they kind of shot it similar to like the way that the first Alien movie handled the alien.
Right.
Where it's like you don't really get to see him clearly. He's in the shadows. There's like, it's a dripping, empty factory, dimly lit. There's like chains and rattling sounds.
And it's like a soda factory in like Brazil. So it actually, the environment itself doesn't seem too contrived. It's not really like overly ridiculous where it's like, why are we in a dark factory now? It's like, no, it makes sense. It's a factory in a country that is not necessarily as industrially developed. They've gone through it, like the factory itself is really ancient and like stuff is getting thrown around. Like, of course, soda is going to be dripping everywhere and like the place is going to sound like a bomb just went off.
But yeah, it's really good because even though at this point the visuals are almost 10 years old for that movie, they still really hold up in that respect. Like when you light it that way where you don't get to see the whole creature, it looks great. Like that would still pass for today.
No, I was actually really surprised by the quality of that intro reveal, especially because, I mean, I would also say this, is that Marvel as of recently has grown with the trailers, with its more recent philosophy. Like they just want to show you the awesome things that they want to show you. Like it's very like upfront. Like you'll see like Hulk in the new Thor trailer. Like you'll see this other thing. They're not a company that's truly built on surprises. At least not anymore. Not anymore. But it's cool to see that like old school movie philosophy of like, what's it gonna look like? Like you haven't seen him. Let's build this up a little bit more. And then when you see the Hulk in full detail for the first time, holy crap.
Now, I didn't think about this before now, but it could be that they did that intentionally because they were trying to visually separate themselves from
Ang Lee.
Yes, from the Ang Lee Hulk, which we still haven't watched.
We were considering doing a one-off on that.
I think that's what we're going to do after this. But,
all right. Just drench ourselves in Hulk lore.
I'm also not going to surprise the listener. That's what we're going to do next.
Yeah, no. Also, just not surprise the listener.
I'll come back at the end and act like it's a secret.
Yeah, totally.
But I have a feeling that they wanted to do sort of you thought maybe people weren't as impressed by the visuals of Ang Lee's Hulk, so they're like, nah, dog. Check it out. We got the real Hulk now.
Well, and also, I will say this movie is very much kind of what I wanted out of a Hulk movie, where it's very much a balance between Banner and the Hulk. It's not just Hulk smashing stuff. It's a lot of Banner talking through how he's going to solve things, him being actually very scientifically active, him still being involved in his past life, still very much in love with his wife. I'm going with wife. I don't care.
Okay.
And all of those kind of things that are very important. Like Bruce Banner is very much a character in this one, and especially in some of the more recent Avengers films, he doesn't really seem like a character sometimes. He just seems like kind of a medium for the giant Hulk monster that destroys everything. Like he's kind of a cop-out in that way. Not so much in the first Avengers, but definitely in the second one. He feels like we just need a weapon. Just Scarlet, just like kick him over something and he'll come back as the Hulk. It's fine. This was very much a Bruce Banner character movie starring the Hulk in the action scenes, which I think is what a Hulk film kind of should aim for personally. Turned out really well.
Yeah.
I think that balance was struck pretty heavily. Now, whether Banner's life is interesting all the time is another story entirely, but I would say from that balance aspect, they were able to do that in the 2008 film.
So with that in mind, how about you do a quick point-by-point breakdown of the movie, The Incredible Hulk?
Now, you wanted me to do a plot breakdown?
Yeah, let's do a plot breakdown, because I feel like we've talked a lot about the movie, but for anyone who might be listening who maybe hasn't watched the movie...
No one has. Let's be serious with ourselves. Out of our 5 listeners, no one has actually sat down and watched the film with us.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But
all right. Well, regardless, so the way the movie works is that at the very beginning, there is actually probably my favorite intro origin story because it's done in a 3-minute credit scene where the movie breaks down that in all visuals, literally, I don't think any dialogue, no delivered dialogue at least, and no like sound effects or anything. Well, no sound effects, but like no dialogue, no narration, no nothing, just visuals that Bruce Banner was involved in an experiment, heavily injured his girlfriend at the time, Betty Ross, heavily injured the military staff that was involved, broke the arm of the general who was working there, destroyed the whole place and woke up in the middle of nowhere, came back, tried to figure out what happened to Betty because he barely had any idea. He knew he was responsible for it, but he had no idea really what was going on.
General Ross is like, get out of here!
Yeah, exactly. General Ross gets him out of there and also tries to track him down. And then we kind of get the basis of the film, which is that Bruce Banner has been running for a while. There is no stated, well, there is a stated period of time. At the very beginning, it says days without an incident, which is taken to believe the usage of the Hulk persona. And it says, I think, 361. So it's been nearly a full year at this point that he's been separate from the Hulk personality.
Right.
And at this point, he is staying in, it was definitely a Brazilian city. I don't know if it was Rio.
It was Rio de Janeiro.
It was Rio, okay. So he's in Rio. He's staying there, and he's working in a soda factory. He's learning meditation techniques from local like mystics and gurus and just like, you know, people of religion, things like that, and just like trying his best to like learn techniques to keep himself calm. He has a heart rate monitor on his wrist at all times and like a way of keeping track of this because he knows the limits before he hits over to being the Hulk. And at the beginning of the movie, at the soda factory he works at while fixing a technical thing involving the conveyor belt, slices his finger, sending a drop of blood into one of the soda bottles. That soda bottle is then consumed by a man in the U.S. who turns out to be Stan Lee, immediately dies from gamma radiation, and General Ross, who is the guy who is in charge of the project, figures this out and immediately figures out where the package came from and sends a sends a Navy SEALs team led by Tim Roth down there to try and track him down.
Tim Roth, who is on loan from the British Special Ops.
Which is their workaround for Tim Roth's accent.
Basically.
Which is fine.
That's fine.
Yeah. It's Tim Roth. I love the guy. They go south, track him down. After tracking him down and him having his own problems with like local thugs and what have you, gets himself to the soda factory, gets beaten up by aforementioned local thugs, who then trank one of those guys, only to realize that the thugs have beaten Banner pretty severely, and his heart rate is now at 200, and he hulks out. And then we get the shot that we were talking about before, the scene that we were talking about, where he wrecks a soda factory, wrecks most of the SEAL team, wrecks most of the thugs, and practically breaks Tim Roth in half before jumping out of an entire wall and disappearing off the face of the earth.
Right.
He wakes up like 3 days later in Guatemala.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing like little aside that I found actually pretty great, where he like speaks to the guy in Portuguese and the guy's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, oh crap, Spanish. I know Spanish. He's like, where am I? Guatemala. Well, shit, all right, you got a coat? Can you drive me to the local town? I don't know.
And the guy's like, sure.
And then we have the rest of the movie. From Guatemala, he manages to find a way to the U.S., I think using fake passports and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can tell, like, there is some quick shots of him basically living as a homeless person for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Panhandling people and just kind of scraping by with handouts until he can sneak back into the U.S.,
which I think they said is like 127 days or something like that later. You could blink and miss that, really. But he manages to make just enough, gets himself a fake passport, smuggles himself basically into the U.S. From there, gets to Culver University, where he finds Betty Ross, who is now fully healed from the incident from a year ago. Is newly dating a guy. I
get not to interject too badly, but I get the impression that it's been at least 3 years since they've seen each other.
Probably, I would say days. Yeah, the days without an incident tracker at the very beginning could be more,
because during the
days without, because he says
when they talk about tracking him, you get the impression that other people have had sightings of the Hulk and stuff like that.
Right. So okay, let's just estimate it's been like 3 years.
Yeah.
He sees he goes to a local pizzeria that he like knows the owner of and like has known him for a while, hangs out there, manages to sneak his way into the laboratory to try and find the files, because this entire time he's been communicating with a guy by the name of Mr. Blue over an encrypted connection, trying to use the data that he can give him to come up with a cure. This guy's like a cellular biologist or something like that. Mr. Blue needs more data to be able to get it. Turns out the data's been purged, because of course it goddamn has.
Yes.
And from there, he reruns into Betty, who immediately is happy to see him.
I have 2 notes about him breaking into the lab in the college. First of all, the security guard behind the
Lou
counter.
Ferrigno.
Yes.
I actually really enjoyed that.
The person who played the Hulk in the 1960s TV series, or 1970s? 1970s television series. Lou Ferrigno plays the security guard.
Which is great. Who doesn't love Lou Ferrigno? Even if he can't speak English all that well.
I've got the note I have there is that pizza opens all doors.
Yeah, I was going to say that was something that I was laughing at as I was watching it, where I'm like, only in a movie can you get into a
secured lab.
Like a high level secure cellular lab in a university with 2 things of pizza.
Yeah.
Like,
he had 2 boxes of pizza, one to get him past the security guard and one to get him into the computer lab.
And bribe the guy to use one of the computers. Like, it's pretty big. Like, that's kind of a big deal.
Also, last note about that, I noticed when he logged onto the computer, the immediate thing that pops up is Norton 360.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh shit. Oh wow, what a time capsule! Norton.
Anyway, which is funny because
garbage.
Edward Norton. I think that was actually an intentional joke. I hadn't thought about that.
An intentional joke that they also probably got some money from.
Yeah, probably. I mean, why not both? From there, runs into Betty Ross again, who's happy to see him. They figure out a plan. He tells her everything, essentially. At this point, they inject Tim Roth's character with the serum from before to see whether it would do anything to him, and also because, hey, we need like a super weapon on our side to like take down this big green rage monster.
No, they just give him a small dose of the serum.
Yeah, but it was like lower muscle and bone marrow, they said. So it's some pretty serious
It's still some gnarly injections, but it's not like the full amount that Banner got exposed to.
And then from there, they managed to pull together what data they have, and then Ross straight up attacks a university campus with an entire army battalion and try and kill him. And it goes about as well as you think. He wrecks most of everything. And General Ross sends a helicopter gunship at his own daughter, who Bruce Banner has to protect her from, which, moron. Mm-hmm. Protects her. They leave and end up in the mountains nearby. Some
sort of cave in the mountains.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of see them in the occasional shot. I assumed it was fine.
You get this sort of like King Kong kind of thing.
Yeah, actually, I'll go into this a little bit later. I got very interesting vibes from this movie at the end there. From there, they stay out there for a little bit. She learns that A, the Beast is a part of him, and B, like the Beast can kind of be contained a bit, which is big news because he's never really thought of it as a part of him necessarily,
right.
More a raging Jekyll and Hyde, like a Hyde style personality, but no, it's part of you, it recognizes me. That's a big deal. Mm-hmm. And that's actually a huge deal when it comes to the Hulk as a character. And so he manages to bring himself down. They head down again from the mountain and decide to go figure out where they can find a cure, because as General Ross says later, is like, well, if they were running, they'd have been gone already. We need to figure out where he is in this country, because they're going to find someone. They find Mr. Blue, Samuel Stern, give him all of the info on it, and he manages to hook them up to this weird dialysis machine that he's figured out how to pump out the Hulk's blood to be able to get samples and then inject him with an antidote. And it works, actually, right. Which is miraculous. They induce the Hulk change. And then Liv Tyler manages to get him to recognize her again. And Betty's like, no, it's me. It's fine. We're going to bring you back. And then after a couple kicks which was really funny, of damn it, the graduate students mess with this thing. Of just a couple kicks to the antidote machine. They managed to pump it through his blood.
And I believe a full-on body slam.
Yeah. He gives it the people's elbow.
So then they get the Hulk to subside. He turns back into Bruce Banner.
Yep.
And then it's a success, but then they quickly find out that the Mr. Blue has been synthesizing the Hulk's blood,
which is a big fucking deal.
Yes. It's like, why the fuck are you doing this? Like, don't you recognize this could be cures? This is the future. The applications of this are amazing. And
which, in fairness to Samuel Stewart, he's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong.
It is God juice in blood. It can change everything that is the human race. Well, and the problem is there are literal military officers right outside his window with a 50 caliber sniper rifle aimed at Bruce Banner's back.
Bruce Banner immediately looks at him and he's like, no, we need to destroy all of this right now, because the reason I want the reason we've been on the run and this has been so difficult is because they're trying to weaponize this.
And then at that point, Samuel Stewart says, I think he gets out one syllable and then a bullet slams into Banner's back. And then Tim Roth walks in, like, now kind of crazed because we didn't mention this before. During the initial fight at the university, Bruce Banner kicks him in half, basically.
Breaks like every bone in his body.
He kicks him, and Tim Roth slams into a tree at such a velocity that it's almost comical.
Tim Roth was emotionally hulking up, and Tim Roth.
Roth.
He like basically charges right up to Hulk. He's like, is that the best you could do? What up, bro? You want to throw down, bro?
And then the Hulk just kicks him so hard that it looks like a Looney Tunes cartoon. And he slams into a tree like he's Wile E. fucking Coyote. And you hear just everything snap. And the only reaction I had upon hearing that is, oh! 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 You gotta want to do that, like that rap meme, just oh, like that is the Hulk equivalent of a mic drop.
Yeah, the only thing that would have made it more Looney Tunes though is if Tim Roth's character then lifts up a wooden sign and just says "ouch."
Yeah, exactly. But so after that happens, Tim Roth is now. At this point, sorry, I'm going to go dial it back a little bit because I didn't mention some stuff with Tim Roth. He ends up in the hospital with everything broken. Like, we're talking, you know the stuff from Doctor Strange where he has, like, his hands in that crazy device that is meant to fix all his neurons his nerves after
he's basically
he crashes
completely
through it.
pinned up.
It's that same thing, only with, like, every bone in Tim Roth's body. And, like, 10 minutes later in screen time, but in actuality, like, a week later, he's just fine.
Yeah.
He just he actually just looks at the general, is like, sir,
yeah.
Like, what the hell happened to you?
He's like, what's next?
And at this point, when they're tracking down Stern, he goes completely off script. He goes complete Agent Smith, pulls the earbud out, and just chases him down. And you begin to recognize that Tim Roth's kind of losing his mind. Mm-hmm. And after that, he realizes that Banner only took one bullet to take down, and is like, ah! Where's the thing that tried to kill me? And is like very much going nuts. And they haul Banner out, and it's looking relatively fine. And then the second command of General Ross is talking to Samuel Stern and is like, hey, we need this equipment. We need the ability to synthesize. And before she can finish that statement, she actually rifle butt to the back. Tim Roth again. And my favorite thing has got to be Sam Stern just being like, do you always hit people? It's like, yeah, I think that's Tim Roth's entire character motivation in this movie. And then he like lifts up Sam Stern and is like, hey, so give me all this like now. Mm-hmm. Immediately in my bloodstream. I need it.
Well, and then the funny thing is he's like, fine, sure. Like, you don't need to point a gun at me. I want to do this.
Which is actually really interesting and kind of made for a super cool supervillain.
Well,
and I'm like really disappointed that there weren't Hulk sequels after seeing that.
And then that's the thing that they set up that I mentioned earlier that they're not going to follow through with is that when all of this is going down, when Tim Roth's character turns into the Abomination. Yeah. And in the process of doing that, he smacks Mr. Blue into the wall, and like he gets like a head wound, and he's sitting there, and meanwhile there's some of that Bruce Banner gamma juice falling into his head wound, and it starts growing and pulsating.
He starts grinning.
He starts grinning like a lunatic.
I looked this up. Sam Stern is actually a really important Hulk villain of the what was it? He was a member of the Intelligentsia, the Leader. And apparently he is known for having a very large green gamma brain, basically. And that's where they were going with that. Where that would have been really cool.
Yes,
that seems like an amoral scientist who's like completely like very Brainiac-esque, where he's like very down with the ways just like ends justifying the means kind of thing. I would have been fine with that.
Well, and that's kind of what they set him up as, and they might go back to it.
Maybe no, they're not.
It would be nice if they did.
But after this, it's actually pretty simple. It comes down to A-Bomb versus Hulk. Tim Roth is Abomination at this point, but it's A-Bomb versus Hulk in just a punching match. And it's actually pretty sweet.
There's actually a really great thing that they did to trigger Bruce Banner into becoming the Hulk again. He throws himself out of the plane they're in.
And realizes about halfway down he just did.
Yeah, and he's like, shit, I'm not changing. Once again, another Looney Tunes moment. boom, right through the ground.
And then pulls himself out as the Hulk.
Right, then
was
you just get
great.
Hulk fist pounding out of the ground.
Yep.
Yes.
And then just punching match. And like a very well made, well shot, well CGI'd punching match.
Yep.
And that's kind of, well, in this movie, well, I mean, we'll talk about this later, but in this movie, I'm much more forgiving of it than comparatively to something like Man of Steel.
Right.
Because they're two giant rage monsters. Like, it makes sense that it comes down to a
They're
punching
two
match.
giant rage monsters. It's a punching match. And you know what the Hulk does that Superman didn't?
Save people?
Save people. He's actively trying
look at
to
that.
protect the people of the
Even
city.
when everybody shows up, at, like the cops and everybody with like weaponry, and they're like, what is that thing? We might need to kill it. And Hulk's still like, meh.
So the Hulk, in effect, makes a better Superman than Superman in this scenario.
Yes, we just said that, everybody. That is a thing that we just said and agreed with.
Oh, shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty good. And then from that point, he leaves again to a new location. And it's assumed that he's actually, unlike last time, he's actually trying to tame the personality, which is different. It seems like he's purposely inducing it at the very end to attempt to bring himself in control of it. And then we have the first linking scene ever in the Marvel universe, which is General Ross sitting depressed at a local bar, or like one of the bars it seems he goes to a lot. And then Tony Stark shows up and says, hey, I need the last known coordinates you have on Banner because we need him for a team, which is pretty sweet.
And then it's or whatever.
Whatever. No, that's Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, I believe I'm thinking of the ending of The Matrix.
No, you're thinking. Well, yes, you are actually.
But it's like the same. It's the same kind of vibe.
It's Rage Against the Machine.
It's-
It kind of all blends together after a while. I love them, but like, yeah, they kind of all blends together after a while.
All right, coming up next time, agree to disagree. Rage Against the Machine.
They're kind of fantastic, but also super bland. Anyway, so that's kind of the summary. It's actually a rather enjoyable movie, and it is very different from the other Marvel movies where, weirdly, the character he goes through an arc, but it's not the origin arc, which is different and kind of cool that they were willing to go with an angle where they went with the, hey, we know you know the character. We understand that pop culture knows this character. We don't need to tell you this origin story again. Here's his origin story in 3 minutes of credits. You know it. I know it. Everyone in your family knows it. Watch the damn movie.
So the arc of this movie, I'd say, is Bruce Banner starting off trying to kill the Hulk.
Suppress it.
So, well, he's trying to remove it from him.
Yeah.
And by the end of the movie, he's starting to come to terms with the idea that this is just going to be his life.
Which ends up becoming the story of the Avengers as well, which actually works out, which is him still trying to suppress the Hulk, but doing a better job of it. And then by the end of the movie, coming to realize that the Hulk is him.
That actually, to jump over to the Avengers, one of my favorite parts of that movie is that line that he has when they're in New York. I'm
always angry.
Yeah, he's like, you want to know my secret? I'm always angry.
And then he turns around, sheds his skin, and punches a giant alien in the fucking face. And it's one of the best things you've ever seen in movies.
That
and
articulated
I don't care.
armor just crinkling.
I do like, I am a movie snob who will genuinely tell you that one of his favorite movies of all times is the fucking Seventh Seal. I don't even care. I love the Avengers, man. And I love that, like, just ultimate crowd-pleasing moment of, oh, by the way, he's tamed the beast. Shit is real now.
He's mostly tamed the beast.
Yeah.
There's some things he can't handle, like, if he gets hurt, like some of that he doesn't quite have it down. But whatever. That's the Avengers.
Right.
So ultimately this boils down to, I like this movie, you like this movie. If you haven't seen this movie, you should really watch this movie.
So I actually had something I want to run by you while we still got a little bit of time.
Sure.
Which is, I really felt a lot of that final fight. I think why I enjoyed it so much is the same reason I love the Godzilla movies. It felt like a kaiju battle.
Yeah.
It actually felt significantly like a battle between two giant Godzilla-style monsters.
In a lot of ways, it is very similar to the battle in the more recent Godzilla movie, the one that takes place in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It's a lot like that.
Even then, like, the destruction is very... It's simple, but it's visceral.
I'd say the major difference, though, between those two is that that Godzilla movie was just way too fucking darkly lit through most of it.
Oh yeah, no, entirely. That movie, you need someone to turn the brightness up on that. But in general, I mean, no, Godzilla movies in general, I mean, like, not just the recent one where it's like the damage is heavy to the city, a lot of it's indiscriminate. The two things that are fighting really don't care about what's happening around them, and it becomes a like monster versus monster punching match that is eventually tamed by like a human being stepping in. And that actually kind of works in this way because, I mean, the Hulk is basically a man-sized kaiju monster.
Now, the one thing that they don't really address after all of this, like, okay, so the Hulk doesn't kill A-Bomb. The Hulk beats the crap out of A-Bomb and then
is choking him with a giant chain.
Yes, and then Liv Tyler's like, no! And then he stops, and then A-Bomb's just laying on the ground.
Which, in fairness, is another way this movie's better than Man of Steel. He doesn't actually kill the main villain.
Yeah, he doesn't break his neck.
Yeah.
Ooh,
no,
shit.
no, we're just gonna be dropping bombs against the DC universe over here.
But
seriously, fuck that movie.
So the thing is, with that though, what happens to A-Bomb after that?
Yeah, they kind of don't address that. I imagine he's in like some kind of weird holding cell.
Yeah, but it's like, how do they get him? It's not like they have this tech available right now.
No, fair enough. But I mean, in the same vein with the in the same vein as the Samuel Stearns thing, I kind of think it was something that they could have done if they still had Norton, and they didn't want to risk it without it. And then Ruffalo came on, and by the time they were comfortable with Ruffalo, he had already stated he didn't want to do solo Hulk films.
You know how in the existing MCU they have that offshore ocean prison?
Yeah.
It would be great if they did like an Arkham Asylum style thing where it's just like they go back, they're there, and like in the deep recesses of it, that's where like A-Bomb is being held.
Yeah. I mean, the
constant rage monster.
The problem is the Shield of this universe sucks and is lame. Like, they're not going to do something like that. Also, I think it's because it's the same reason the Samuel Stearns thing hasn't come up. It's because General Ross also becomes Red Hulk in the actual comics, which that'd be fucking awesome. But the problem is we can't do any of this because Ruffalo, in fairness, doesn't want to do solo Hulk films because he doesn't think it's going to be useful to the character. He doesn't want to be involved contractually. And like, in fairness, those are sweet ideas, but probably wouldn't go too great.
On the flip side, like, it is kind of, I would love for them to do another Hulk movie, but what a sweet gig for Ruffalo where it's like
he just kind of shows up.
He gets to show up. He's getting paid multi-million-dollar checks to essentially be a side character in all these other Marvel movies.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's just, to me, actually, well, I mean, we can do this as our final talking point.
Sure.
And I think this actually works better, is that because we're talking about Hulk sequels, let's talk about him in the MCU period and how you feel of him as a side character rather than a main star. Do you think it works better for him as a character, or do you think it's a deterrent?
You know, before I watched...
Or detriment.
Before I watched this movie again, The Incredible Hulk, I would have said 100% I prefer him as a side character. But after having watched this, I feel like in the right hands, they could do a really good Hulk movie. But that being said, I do like where things have gone, where he's going to be in Thor Ragnarok. Yep. And I have a feeling that he's going to be a pretty big deal in that movie.
Right. It seems like they're pushing World War Hulk stuff pretty bad.
So you have Hulk in this movie, and he's going to be a major character in it. So even though it's a Thor movie, it's kind of like Thor and Hulk, Thor plus Hulk.
To me, and I will say this is one frustration. It reminds me a lot of Doctor Strange when I was first. This movie reminded me a lot of Doctor Strange, not just because of like the weird hand wire things,
right,
or the hell those are called. No, but in general, it reminds me a lot of Doctor Strange in that I'm fine without a sequel. To me, I think this was a perfect origin story setup for a character that unfortunately is very one note for the rest of the series. Like Hulk and Banner are very much defined as themselves and then just never changed. Like, their arc is very simple. It's them growing together and growing as a unit and becoming more synthesized as a being than before. And to me, you don't really need multiple movies on that. It's kind of like Doctor Strange overcoming his arrogance. It's like, you don't really need multiple movies to establish that this guy has very clearly gotten over who he was as a person and is now fine. And in that aspect, I think they're awesome, but they don't and couldn't necessarily be driving figures of the MCU. They're great side characters that you should totally have in like anything that has the opportunity for them. Like, I want more Benedict Cumberbatch Doctor Strange in every opportunity I can get it, but I just don't think that like he as a character still has enough room for one more story.
So that being said, I want you to tell me right now one of the Marvel characters that they've introduced into the series. Who would you like to have a standalone movie that hasn't had one yet?
One of the Marvel universe entirely?
Yeah, one of the ones that they've introduced in the MCU.
Oh,
Who is a character that you would love to have a movie that hasn't had one yet, and obviously one that isn't announced yet?
Oh man, I might have to think about this for a moment.
Well, you're thinking. Can I tell you the one that immediately pops to my mind every time?
Sure.
Is Black Widow. I would love just like shoot it like a straight up 60s espionage movie, but it takes place in the modern era. Because,
oh my god!
Like the ultimate sleeper agent kind of infiltration.
You could even do like the early days of Natasha Romanoff back during the Cold War.
You could.
That'd be really sweet of like her acting as like a weird Hydra agent against S.H.I.E.L.D. and then getting recruited into S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
That'd actually be pretty amazing. I'd watch the crap out of that.
That could be a great movie.
That would be fantastic. All right, well, going outside of the obvious, because Scarlett...
I
almost said that, didn't I? Well, Scarlett Johansson and Scarlet Witch, those two kind of...
I had to very conscientiously say Black Widow.
Damn it. Unfortunately, Scarlet Witch doesn't have... The problem is that without the mutant license, she doesn't have that much room to grow. I think she'd be awesome if they had access to the mutants and the X-Men, because then you could do something batshit like House of M, and that would be glorious. Like her just shattering reality. For the moment, I'm kind of on the fence about a lot of characters. I think Falcon could actually make a pretty sweet movie. I think Bucky could also make a really good movie. I think Hawkeye would be very boring.
I think Hawkeye is the perfect secondary character because you get to know just enough about his personal life outside of the Avengers that's like, all right, this is good for this is great. I would not watch a full movie about him.
They'd never be able to do this because they've already established S.H.I.E.L.D. as crap, but I'd want the early case files of Nick Fury.
That I knew you were gonna do that.
I'd want the, like, I don't know, who is the guy who... Boyega. I'd want John Boyega with his head buzzed and an eye patch. Or not even an eye patch, just his head buzzed. You could explain how he got the eye patch in the movie. Just shooting through stuff in like a turtleneck, yelling Archer-style jokes, and taking down Hydra.
Oh yeah, taking out Hydra during the Cold War.
Hey, we can do this as a combined piece where like after like some weird betrayal or like a botched prison exchange, you end up with Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow
and also Hawkeye
working with a young Nick Fury. Oh, and Hawkeye. You can do a botched prisoner exchange that involves all three of them. They end up on like some weird island and they like have to fight off like Hydra agents. So it's like the three of them working together, and Black Widow has to come to the idea that like her organization's trying to murder her, and then that's what ends up having her sign with S.H.I.E.L.D. is like, but these people have been so nice to me, and also my current organization is trying to murder me.
You're the only people who can protect me from them.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Well, no, because it's Black Widow, so it's got to be, I can protect myself from them, but you'll be able to help me do it.
Yes.
Because that's the difference. Strong female character writing right there.
Right there.
Yeah. Anyway, that'd be awesome as hell. I'd watch the crap out of that movie.
All right. Sounds good.
We just need to send this to a Marvel exec now.
You want to close it up?
I mean, I liked it. It's a good movie. I enjoyed it.
All right, folks.
That's my final line.
Next time we come back at you, it's either going to be next week or the week after.
Probably next week. I think I can get on a more consistent schedule.
All right.
So.
We will have watched Ang Lee's 2003 Hulk movie.
Yeah, you're not going to hear the initial stuff because we already kind of did the initial stuff in the last episode.
It's going to be a one-off, and it's going to be
one-shot.
It's going to be Andrew and me mostly talking about the movie and comparing it to how much better 2008
or
was.
worse. You never know.
You're right. I'll go in completely open. I will try not to impose
I love how you put the film critic voice on at that point, where you're like trying to sound more like Gene Siskel as things go on, where you're like, let me go a little bit higher in tone.
I will try. Actually, let me go full comic book guy. I will try to approach it with a grain of openness, but I cannot guarantee anything.
Oh my god, are we just doing Simpsons character voices now? Because can we do an episode on The Simpsons?
Yeah, we can do an episode about why everyone thinks that the earlier seasons are better than the new seasons.
Hell, we could just do. It's our show. Can we just do an episode on The Simpsons, like a retrospective?
You know what? In the future, well, let's
not next episode, just in general.
Let's workshop this because The Simpsons is a huge,
pretty big undertaking.
If you were to start watching the first episode of The Simpsons nonstop all the way to the next episode, the most recent episode of The Simpsons,
isn't it like 4 months worth of video footage or something like that?
There's like at least a month, and it's like
I'd still do it. I love that show.
You could line them up end to end, and you would make it all the way to the moon.
On that note, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good night.